Hi, thank you for joining me today. This is an interesting project. My friend's daughter purchased this dress, but the front, my friend has decided, is a little bit too low for the daughter. She's the same age as my son and 16. So let's see what I can come up with. So let's get on with it. When I look at this dress, I think what I want to do is undo this part. I don't think undoing all of this is going to be of any benefit whatsoever. The shaping is here, which is the bit that I'm interested in. Not sure what went on there. She must have got some makeup on there or something. I don't really want to be interfering along here either. So here is the top of the dress. I have actually undone it. What I have noticed is the stitching on the front wants to give. That's quite normal because I am sure they didn't overstitch it properly, which is a bit of a shame. What I have here is some trim. I'm going to make sure that the hem here is on the back side. My thought pattern is to tuck that into there at the top, allow for all of these pleats so that whenever it's ironed, all those pleats will go back in, and for it to come over maybe an inch here. I think that will work. So I'm going to do this side first because women's clothes, the right side goes over the left, so the right side has to go in first. This is going to be really awkward because I need to open that up. So I think what I need to do is to pin it so it's in position. Now, I'm not sure how far up I'm going to be able to sew this because obviously I've got to bring the seam out like that. What I will do is to very carefully pin that into position before I start messing with it. And these little pleats have to be pushed up tight. I got enough fabric that I could keep the pleats. So if I pin on this side up against there, and it's not like I can easily turn the dress inside out because that's as much inside out I can do on this particular top. I think I want it to come out by about an inch, so I'll have to measure that, make sure that's where I want it to come to. I can see the top of there here, that's 1.25 inches. I think I want it to be more generous than not, so let me see what that looks like on this side. I think that works. It's very awkward to see when you can't lay everything out flat. Do I want it 1.5 inches? I think that will work. You don't want it to be too deep, but you don't want it to be skimpy either. Having daughters myself, I'm aware of what my friend wants me to do. I think that works. So I'm going to pin it all in now. I'm only going to do one side at a time for this because I don't want it to be too difficult for me. This is an unusual fix. Usually you do something like this when all the parts are separate, not when it's all joined together. I think all those pleats look like they would replete if ironed, because that's the other thing. I really need to make sure that those push back down into that shape. And I'm going to take off here so I'm not having to fight all of that fabric. There we go. It's better to be too generous than not generous enough. So I'm going to rework this on this side so I can actually sew it in. As I've been messing with this, the center seam on this bodice is coming undone. So I'm going to just pop that under here as best I can. It really is not an easy job when it's such a small length of seam. Let's aim for there. You can see the stitches are coming undone here. Pull that into place. I'm going to allow that to be moved down just a wee tad, not very much. So I am sewing over those stitches. I'm going to shorten those stitches to a 3. I think I've got all of that in line and sew up towards the top to about there, and then reverse just a couple of stitches and forward. I think that will do the job. I'll check. It's one of the stitches I need to cut out. I think that's just about there. Maybe one more stitch would have done it. I dislike it when things fall apart. Now for this. There's quite a bit of weight on here. All of this is heavy. It's pulling it the wrong way, unfortunately. What I do need to do is make sure that I've got my length. So if I fold that back over, I need to make sure that that is 1.5 inches, and that looks like it's 1.5 inches. Pinch that together and twist it over. Pull all of that over. The only thing with a walking foot is I always find they're rather difficult to maneuver into place, unfortunately. Pop that there. Remove that and start sewing that into position. I'm hoping I don't have to undo it. And I'm using the existing sew line as my guide for here, because you have to have some kind of guide. Let's see if I can pull that back over here. And then I'm going to come into the top here, and I'm going to run out of fabric to sew onto there. So I'm just going to sew as far as I think I can and pull this into here. It's really awkward. I can't go any further forward because this is in the way. Let's have a look. Pop that inside there where that seam is. It might work. I was hoping to pull this more in at an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the other side in and see if I can get that at a better angle and then play with it. This has to be sewn into here. So I have to sew this into this side whether I like it or not. Okay, so if I sew down here, it might pull it in to there without being a problem because that's where the join is. So I'm going to put a pin here and hold it, and then I will sew it into place. And there's just not enough room with this top. Put that back in. Let's have a look. I think I want that to go over just that little bit more so I don't have that pleat in here. I think I know where I'm putting it. And if I open this pleat up, it should be okay. Or was it the next one? No, I've got the one I want. I've managed to get this piece in line, and I'm going to sew down here. Remove the pin and sew to that corner. Right into that junction where the dress splits at the front. Let's see how this side looks. I think that works. I'm still not really happy with the way this has gone in, but I'm going to work on the other side and see how well I get that in. And if it goes in the same angle, then that's how it's going to have to be. So I've cut my second length. I'm going to make sure that the hem is towards the back. I don't need that being at the front. And I'm just going to tuck this, like I did before, into the front of that seam. I want it quite full so that whenever it's ironed, there's enough pleats there to just be pressed into place. If I measure from the front here to the edge of this, it is, I was hoping it was 1.5 inches. It's just underneath, so I think I probably lost something when I was pinning it or sewing it into place, but that's okay. Turn this over like that. I'm going to measure my 1.5 inches to there and tuck that against this seam here. I'm going to go over slightly because I need it to be stitched down on the other side. Pin that side first so that it's held into place along there where that seam is. And it comes out to about 1.5 there. So when I get to the top here, I want this to be about 1.5 inches. So let's get there. It's awkward because you can't really see what you're doing behind here. That needs to be where it is. Pin that from underneath, I think, so that it goes into the seam line there. Fold that open like that. Pop this right into here like I have on the other side. That might be too long. It's awkward because the fabric is folded into place. I can't really get in as well as I would like. Pop that in there like that. I think that might be a little bit too much still. If I can get this top in with enough pleats like that, then I can take any extra fabric out of the bottom here. Oh boy, some projects are just not meant to be easy, but I think that's about there. So I'm going to pin that like that for now, just so I can see what is going on. Yeah, I think I need to take it down slightly. Just a little bit. That looks almost even, both sides. It's so difficult to tell. This dress is horrible to work with, actually. Let's pull this through, see if that makes it any easier. Probably not very much because I don't have the space on the other side. It still doesn't help. I'm going to take those 2 pins out and try to work this in. Try to move those pleats up just a little bit so they're in line. I think I like this, where it gradually goes into shape. Let's do that. Pop that in here as best I can. Measure from here to here and pin that back in there. So I think I like this side. If I can get this side to go in properly, I think that looks more even somehow than what's happening on this side. Let's see if I can transfer that pin to the other side like that. And transfer this pin and this pin also to the other side, and hopefully that hasn't altered it too much. No, it seems okay. My only concern is that the top fabric is really quite flimsy, so now I've got to pull that in. I think that will go there. I will also pin this in here on the other side. I'm only putting this one in to hold it because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all the way up here. Actually, the first thing I've got to do is change the direction of this pin because it's facing the wrong way. I've got to unroll the seam here, which wants to stay rolled in, and turn it round. I held it firm, so hopefully it'll be perfect. Line this up. I don't really want to take all of this off at the top here or out. It wants to roll under and I don't want it to be rolled under, so let's see what we can do. It's rolled under because that's how it went in, unfortunately. I think what I'm going to have to do is start a little ways down. I think that's where it needs to be. So it's a little way down because I can't put any of this further up even if I tried. Take that pin out but hold the fabric as firm as I can. Straighten up the bodice against the trim that I'm putting in. Move that pin as well. See if I can push that up slightly. I think I'm just going to have to let that go in straight. But the other one on the front is going to be twisting. That is not good. So I have to basically turn this bodice, this side of the bodice up. Let me measure to see how far that comes out. And if I move it, this is so annoying. This is why everything should be done before it's actually all sewn together. Fold all of that back on itself and at least catch the top bit down, I think. Turn that. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how this is going to turn out. I'm going to try to keep that straight and this straight until I get to the bottom here. I am going to be crying, I think, if this hasn't gone in nicely. Yeah. It's caught here. That just looks horrible. I don't think that's going to work at all. It might. The trouble is that I just tie myself in knots. I just don't like my work sometimes. Now, I do like this side. I hate this side. So I'm going to have to undo from here up and just pull it in slightly. That's just not good enough for me. Oh gosh, I wish I wasn't like that. I really do wish I could go, that's it, that's good enough. But I can't. Then I've got to decide what to do down here. The thing I'm going to do is a row of stitching here. So I'm going to measure from that row of stitching down, which is about 1/2 inch, and make sure it's 1/2 inch on the other side as well, because you can't have one side of the bodice going up and the other side going down. That would look silly as well. Seeing as I like this side, I'm going to just put a pin in here to hold everything into shape for now, just at the top. You see, this comes right in at the top. So it's just while I'm undoing this side, it's all wrong. You'll find that when you put something in, you're not always going to like the way it goes in first time. Let's undo that from this side so I don't snag anything. I'm thinking that this might look a little bit more even. I've measured down so it can't go further up than there. Put that in there, and I think by pushing that in, maybe it needs to come out a little bit like that. It's really difficult to tell because the bodice has been pulled open slightly. I'm not trying it on a living body, which is always a little bit awkward. I think I like that. So I'm going to do the best I can to pin it as it is in place. And I've got a horrible feeling I've just pinned the lining into place as well, which wasn't meant to happen, but that's what I'm fighting against. It's just not doing what I want it to do. I'm going to rework here. Any threads I'm going to leave for now, I'll poke those through to the other side. So let me see what I can do here. That's where I want that. Pin that there for now. Take that pin out, remove that and pin that. And the same here. I want that there. Hold on to that. Take that out and pin there for now. I'm not going to touch that. That's going to have to fold the other way. And now the fight. So I'll be coming down here. Hold on to that like that. Open that up like that and pin there. I could tack it, but I'm so used to using pins. Hold that, twist that, put that pin back in there, all the way through like that. And the same here. Hold that, and put the pin in there. Hopefully that hasn't moved too much, and I'm going to sew that into place. You can see how it's altered on the underside as well. Pull that all the way back so it can't get caught up. Put this back under here like this, and re-sew this side into place. Take that out. Pull this up. Take that one out. And I'm going to hold this into place so it can't move out. Move that in, pull this forward and try to pull that seam out. It's going to be difficult because the seam is so rucked up and wants to go under there. I think I've done it. As long as it looks as close as possible. There we go. It's not quite to the top, but it should be close enough. Reorganize all of this so that that goes under there and see what that looks like. I think that looks almost even. It's as even as I'm going to get it. Let's put it that way. Perfect. I'm going to very carefully pull this open like that and cut that back on there. That goes over there, so I'm going to just cut level with there up, pull that in line like that, because I don't want too much fabric behind here. If it's too much fabric, it won't lie flat. I think what I've got will be perfect. I'm just going to pin all of this into place all the way around, and I'll make sure that that comes into line on the front, just in case it's moved. I think that's in line there too, like that. Pop that behind there. I don't want to risk sewing that on the machine just in case I mess up even more than I already have on the front. I think that's exactly where I want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here where I stopped taking the stitches apart. Got a nice big knot there. Pop that underneath there. I'm going to just whip stitch a little bit, a couple of little stitches so that it holds everything in place. Line that up like that. Just want everything held, but nothing too much to start off with. I think that's where I want everything. And then I'm going to go in behind, across. These are about 1/8 of an inch. They're really small stitches, and make sure you go through the fold of the fabric. That's going to be the awkward part because it's already folded. It's not going to really want you to go through it and out. And I'm using double thread, so it's going to be contrary to start off with. I don't have any of these showing on the front, which is good. Make sure my threads are even. I'm going to go in opposite where that thread came out, down about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of a centimetre if you want to work in metric, back through the white lining, through the fold. I'm going to hold it like that because it really is being very contrary. Part of it's because I'm only doing tiny stitches. And now I want to come in behind the new trim and out. Make sure there's no stitches on the front. If you're unsure, just always check. Into the lining fabric, and I'm going to take that in along the stitch line there so it stays even. Make sure nothing shows on the front and across. I can move that out of the way. If I go where the stitches are, it shouldn't show anything on the front. Pull the threads evenly and through. Tuck everything in, make sure everything's where it needs to be, and then set the next couple of stitches. Make sure you go through that fold. It's very easy just to pick up a stitch here and there and not go through the fold. Through the stitch line, because you're going to be pulling everything towards you, but you will know that you've gone all the way through to the front. Nothing shows on the front, and repeat. Remember which side you came up on, so you might have to double check occasionally. You don't want two sets of stitching on the same side. They have to be opposite sides, otherwise it's not going to work. I would not do anything more than about 1/8 because you really want it to look like it's machine sewn in. Some things you can do 1/4 of an inch on, but something delicate, do the smaller stitches, not the homeward bounders, as my grandmother and my mother used to call them. Do a few stitches and then straighten your threads out and then pull them through. Where the piece come in at the back, I'm going to push that down in there. I'm going to line that up with that and that up with that so that it's all even. It won't matter if it's a little bit tight on the back because nobody's ever going to see that, certainly not from the front. And I'm going to just pop a pin here because I want all of this to be even. This centerpiece has to be with the center on the front, which it is, and it's very easy to stretch one of the fabrics against the other, so it'd be very easy for me to stretch the lining fabric out of place against the front, so I'm having to be very careful not to do that. I'm making my way through the loose layer all the way through to the fold here without it showing on the front, and then along the back, and again through all of those layers. I'm going to do that to the center. It keeps doing that to me, which is not what I want. I don't want to see my needle through there, so I'm going to take it out and work it through the fold of the fabric. And that's what I mean when I say go through the fold. Really make sure you've gone through the fold. Take that one out so I can come into here all the way through to the front. Make sure I'm in line with the top of the fabric there. I'm almost through to the seam at the front there. I'm going to do a couple of whip stitches into here, but not all the way through the front, just into the seam that's there, so that that front is really secure. And they're really quite invisible because they're right where the seam comes. And now I'm going to come up the other side, so I'm going to go in, across, make sure it doesn't show on the front, and then make my way up the other side. Now I've sewn all the way up to the top to where I unpicked the stitches, and I'm going to do a couple of whip stitches over that point, making sure that I do not go to the front. I don't want anything showing at all from the back that I'm doing to the front. And then I've got to get rid of this thread, so I'm going to go into the back of here like this as far as I can without it coming out. There we go, that'll do. Pull it slightly tight so I'll lose the thread in there, cut it, and it's done. Now the front and the back are all sewn together. I think that works. Thank you for joining me on this project. I know that my friend and her daughter rather liked the trim that I chose. It was very difficult to find one that I really liked that would be suitable for this. I think that's perfect for this little dress, nice and light to go with the light fabric. If you want to see more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be brilliant. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.